Thank you very much. Welcome for one of the last sessions for today. I hope you still have some energy to listen to us. So that's why we also changed a little bit the format from a just boring presentation in the afternoon to a little bit more interactive thing. Maybe you also have to add something later on. Very happy to hear your thoughts also in the end. But because it's just boring to sit here alone and have a discussion with myself, I have the luck to have 4 awesome and fantastic panelists with me. And yeah, short introduction from your side, Sergio.
I'm from Guatemala, professor and DevOps engineer.
Perfect.
Cool. My name's Matt. I'm the head of DevOps at a big Atlassian partner, and I hate Jira.
I'm Kunal. I work as a developer relations manager at Civo.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah. The screen says the wrong thing. I'm no longer a product director at Sneak. I'm actually independent. I do advisory, consulting, writing and speaking.
Perfect. And my name is Max Körbecher. I'm the managing director of Liquid Reply and earn my bread and butter with giving technology and consulting advisory. So looking into 10 years of Kubernetes, that's crazy, right? Just in June, we celebrate really the 10th birthday of Kubernetes. Make a big party all around the world. Did someone of you attend one of the Kubernetes 10th party? Perfect, at least some.
I organized one of them. I did London.
Yeah, I did Munich.
I did Guatemala.
See, that's why we're all here, connected in mind. And I mean, isn't it crazy, 10 years? Like 10 years ago, I just finished in some way my bachelor. I was thinking about doing a master. My world still was like, hey, what I should do next? Maybe I do some sys administration stuff and things. And then I hit another company and was like, oh wow, they have containers? I've never heard about that in my studies, what it is really doing. So it's crazy how actually old in the one way this topic is, but also how young it still feels in some other context, right? It's still a little bit fresh and crispy and continuously changing, but also thanks to the open source community who's driving all the continuous development and also especially increase the ecosystem. I always like to say, for every little stupid problem, you find at least one little stupid tool to answer on it, but most of the time it's 5 to 10 tools. And this is very fantastic. So the big question is actually then, where do we head next? What is the next thing after Kubernetes? We hear Kelsey Hightower in the morning saying like, well, it's all the time something coming on top, right? And we see that. We had virtualization, which just comes on top of bare metal. We had then the cloud journey, which just comes on top of virtualization again. We have containers, Kubernetes, so layer over layer over layer. Some go for serverless. But what's really the next thing? And I'm not sure if we can really find an answer, but we can have a good exchange of what it could look like. And for this, I would like to start a little bit in the past, because as my history teacher taught me, study the past to understand what's going on in the future, right? So Sergio, what do you think? How did Kubernetes and containers especially affected the whole approach in the IT, in the way of DevOps, in the way of we do in architect systems?
Okay, for me as a professor, I can see that Kubernetes impacted where we are crafting or building distributed systems for me.
Mm-hmm. So really bring it out and not have it just one big collection on.
Yeah, let's say, for example, that previously we were using, well, in the university they have another techniques to create distributed system to process algorithms, something for science and everything like that. But Kubernetes replaces that old technology. So it was impacting, and all the people was starting to adopt Kubernetes in that moment when it appeared, after containers. Yeah.
All right. Matt, what's your take on it?
Well, I think my take is that it's kind of taken us on a slightly evolutionary process from those days when, I don't know who remembers who's old enough to have conversations like, oh, are you running Docker? Oh, that's exciting. Are you running it in production? No, you're not, are you? No, nobody was. And then the emergence of a whole load of technology and things that you add on top of Kubernetes to solve a whole load of those problems that we didn't realize we actually had has been probably the most groundbreaking thing for me.
It almost sounds a little bit like the Instagram story for techies, right? it solves a problem which you were not aware of, and suddenly everyone wants to use it because it's cool and fancy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's one of those problems that is often kind of just lurking around a corner in a lot of tech organizations, and you don't really realize you've got it. Yeah. And so seeing something that comes along which is admittedly slightly complicated, maybe complex as well, and understanding how applying that knowledge that so many good people have put together from Google, from other places, from the origins of Kubernetes, and really exploiting the open source nature of the thing has been one of the most revolutionary things for me.
Hannah, what was the most exciting release or tool within the Kubernetes ecosystem which was released like in the last years where you said like, ooh, that's the thing I want to get on?
I mean, I'm not going to give you like a version number of Kubernetes, which is like my favorite. Oh yeah, that's the best one. Nothing can beat it. We always keep getting better, but I think the conversation has changed. The conversation has changed over the years. So I've been doing this for like almost a decade, not quite the 10 years, but almost a decade. And I'm like, actually, the conversation has changed to like, actually, how do we get this into production? Like the viability of it as a platform to actually, how do we make it delightful as a user experience? And so the conversations that are happening now in the app delivery tag and the platform working group, like all open source, like we're writing like white papers about usability and how to think about it. And I think that's the thing that I'm most excited about at the moment. Backstage came along and became like this, it shone a light on, like as you said, like a problem we didn't know we had as a community, and making it easy to access Kubernetes without getting absolutely overloaded with the complexity of it as a technology. I think that is the thing that I'm most excited about.
So it's actually turns the whole story from like, hey, look, this is a crazy infrastructure technology, all your teams needs to be trained for months and they still get headache, to, well, there's actual business value behind it and we make your life easier and you know an end user, developers to utilize it and bring it.
Oh, it's an evolution of abstraction layers, isn't it? It's like we all got very, very back into the weeds when it came to Kubernetes. We had to think about these things, and I said it in my talk earlier today. I was like, in the past, the infrastructure team would give us a VM, and that was it. We didn't have to think about infrastructure very much. And Kubernetes brought all that complexity back into the development domain. And now we're finally unraveling that and building abstraction layers on top of Kubernetes so that we don't have to think about that anymore.
Kunal, what are you most excited about the last years?
Right. So 10 years ago, I was like 14, 15. So I didn't really transition into the legacy stuff that gentlemen and women were doing, but I was brought into the complexities directly. So when I graduated uni or started working with Kubernetes, my first introduction was, this is a very cool thing, everyone is using it, but there's some challenges, like complexity, costs, picking the right provider, security, all sorts of things. So my thoughts are just, in the future, I'm really excited about what the sustainability group is doing. I am from Delhi, so it's like a good analogy, like the air quality is very bad. So when I see all these tools coming out, all these updates coming out, new LLMs, new iPhone just came out yesterday, I'm just like, what's the point if I can't have like clean air, And I think there was Mark, he showed in his survey in his keynote, the global electricity consumption for data centers and everything is going to grow. So I think I'm more interested in how Kubernetes is going to make systems more sustainable and efficient. And we're seeing a lot of stuff on like edge computing, for example, multi-cloud approach, hybrid cloud, whatnot. There's this one company who's doing data centers in the ocean. Deep Green is doing great stuff. So I'm very excited, yeah.
No, I just want to add to that because I think early adoption of Kubernetes, we had like this kube sprawl where like every team had their own cluster, and that's not what Kubernetes was supposed to do. It was supposed to like utilize your resources more efficiently, wasn't it? And we sort of lost sight of that. But I think we're getting back towards that now.
Maybe a short question to the audience. Who of you is still studying or just recently within the last 1-2 years have finished university? A couple, a handful. Question, how much container and Kubernetes did you had in your studies? A little bit? No? Nothing? You're also not? That's a pity.
Yeah, we do. We have Linux.
That's you.
But
I think that I can add something there.
Yeah.
Because I lived the transition between, let's say, OpenStack, Node.js, containers, Mesosphere privilege to Kubernetes. And I was like, oh, Kubernetes is something interesting, how I can add it to the university. And I started to push myself to start introducing this topic in the university. So it took me like 2.5 years to learn myself and start sharing to the students. So I think that for me and the university in my career impacted in that way for the students because I am from Guatemala, it's next to Mexico, and we don't have like that access to technology. So because it's an open source technology, we discovered something new that we can apply, right? So it was like impacting the university in some way.
Yeah. You're talking also for a very long road and learning curve for it. And this is also something which we still today, after 10 years, continuously hear from end users. It's so hard, it's so awful journey. I worry about operations, I worry about 10,000 endless things. So you had already the experience for that. What do you see like could be the key points to overcome these complexity challenges?
To learn Kubernetes, no?
Yeah.
I think that, well, to start, maybe at the beginning was like a hype or something like that, but not many good documentation. And somebody that can give you examples that maybe using drawings or something like that. Right now we have drawings, also books on the CNCF ecosystem, right? So right now it's easier to understand that part, but maybe to understand in which use cases you can use Kubernetes. I think in a practical way you can understand why it's important or why Kubernetes can solve your problem, right? So I think that's the challenge, understanding why Kubernetes, why use Kubernetes, when use Kubernetes in a practical way, not just, oh, this is a container, you can scale it, and just but what else, right? Yep. So I think that that's the challenge, understand what is behind Kubernetes, the idea of what to solve using Kubernetes, I think.
I think it doesn't help that, so one of the best things about Kubernetes, in my opinion, is the fact that it's generally open source, the core is open source, and a lot of the plugins are open source. So a lot of people come to Kubernetes and end up asking themselves questions like, well, this thing can just do everything, right? Because there's so many plugins for it and modules and things that you can use. But then that gives you a bit of an existential problem. It's like, well, what actually fundamentally is it? So like, how can you like train people on Kubernetes when it's all things to all people? Mm-hmm. And I think we've seen over those 10 years various attempts at kind of making, I don't know, golden paths through Kubernetes. It's like, well, you don't necessarily need to have everything off of that goddamn CNCF landscape, horrific picture. But actually, choose that one. Well, you don't even need it. You don't need a service mesh. You don't need this, you don't need that. And I don't think we've solved this yet. I don't think we've got to the point where we know what the right things are that you should put into your Kubernetes and which ones aren't. And that, I think, makes us struggle a little bit with adoption.
Is Kubernetes the new Jira? Like you can do good things with it, but you can do a lot of terrible things with it.
Don't talk to me about Jira. Oh my God.
I think Kubernetes is complex, so your applications can be simple. I don't mind the complexity. I think Kelsey gave a really good example of the aeroplane in the morning, if you caught the keynote. Yeah, and a good example is like the landscape, for example. The CNCF landscape, if you haven't seen it, it's huge. It's a bit overwhelming. I don't think like that's a bad thing. I look at it as plenty of options. So like when you're looking for a
100%.
when you're looking for a definition in a dictionary, I mean, now you can just Google on your phone. But like when I was 15, we used to have dictionaries like Oxford Dictionary, physical. I'm sure you can all relate. So when you want to look for a meaning, it's like substitute meaning. So you go to S, then you go to U and B.
Yep.
So there are a lot of words. You're not like, oh, 100,000 words. What am I going to do? So I think the same thing with the landscape is you list down what your expectations are from the tools, and you narrow it down in the landscape rather than looking at the landscape as a whole and being like, okay, a lot of options, which one to pick. So I think your problem statement ties with the tool, and I think what works for you works for you. You don't always have to be following the, other people.
Yeah. And I quite like following other people, to be honest, especially in worlds where maybe don't know everything that I should know. And I think you see this in some of the packaged Kubernetes services you give. There's the stuff from AWS, from GCP, from Azure, from another cloud platform begins with a C that I can't quite remember. But packaging that stuff up gives you a head start, doesn't it? So you don't have to deal with the landscape. So you then get started on whatever EKS gives you, what the Civo Cloud gives you, etc. And then you're like, oh, well, actually, now I know a bit more about what I'm doing, then yes, I am going to look at all those things in the service mesh section, for example, on the CNCF landscape and find the things that work for you, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I think the CNCF landscape is actually a very good representation also of the overload which you can push or you see being pushed to organizations. So when we are looking into different large companies, they usually have problems getting a stable environment and platform because it's just simply too much. The large enterprises, they're not counting like, oh, I would like to move one of my core systems to the cloud or wherever or put it on Kubernetes. They're talking about, oh, I have to migrate 2,000 to 7,000 applications in the next 2 years somewhere. So the whole organization has to learn first 1 or 2, maybe sometimes 3 cloud providers plus infrastructure as a code. They need to learn all about CI/CD. Even so, this topic is also kind of old. Not everyone continuously used it. Then you come with container and Kubernetes and plus all the layers on top of it. So I think right now what we see very often is like it's just a huge pile of stuff which organization and people and IT people and all kind of roles have to learn to be able to operate something somewhere. Right? So it's like, really, really stressing out sometimes people when they get like a learning catalog and like, hey, go for it. It will just take you 1.5 years until you're ready to go. Alrighty. So we talked about the last couple of years. What is, as of today, one of the tools, topics you're super duper hyped about? Where you think like that's the thing which is very interesting to have a look at, and everyone should spend some minutes to enjoy it. Hannah.
I've got a slightly controversial answer to this question because my vision of the future has us talking a lot less about Kubernetes. It's just an implementation detail. It's like I said before, it's below the abstraction layer where the users exist. And I think, and I hope that there is a little bit of consolidation in our technical space. And I don't want anyone to go out of business or anything like that, but I do think, the complexity of the decision making that we put on our users is too much. And I think we'll see people thrive and we'll see consolidation, but I also think that we'll see higher level abstractions, which is what will actually drive value for businesses. And we'll be able to shortcut that process that you just talked about, which is like, how many years do you have to spend on Kubernetes? Because that's not how businesses work. Everything is just compounds. It gets faster and faster and faster. And if you can deliver something that can give you a container platform in seconds or minutes, that's what people will choose because time is money. And so, yes, I'm super excited and I love this community so much, but I genuinely hope that we start having a different conversation and it doesn't involve Kubernetes.
I'm going to add on top of Hannah's controversy by echoing that. Yeah, I mean, I love fiddling with Kubernetes. I really do. I also really hate it. And I'm really excited as how we're beginning to be able to depend on it as a platform that just does the stuff it does. It's like run containers in the right place for me. So, I mean, looking at things like the way we're now putting GitOps front and center a lot of the time. So we can do things that just do, it just does things like rollouts, rollbacks, canary releases, all that sort of stuff. And all the, well, I think a lot of the interesting stuff is happening at a layer above it now, just to build on what Hannah was saying. And yeah, it's absolutely true. It's like, we still need people who know what's going on at that level. But the interesting delivery of value happens at higher levels. And so, yeah, seeing those sort of products mature, maybe a bit of consolidation there, things emerging as shared best practice at the actual application delivery level, I'm quite excited.
Linux of the cloud.
Linux of the cloud, exactly.
Yeah, I'm echoing both the points. I won't repeat that. But I'm seeing companies invest a lot in reducing the complexity, be that via management platforms or security startups or just cost management. Like go to KubeCon, you'll find at least 4 booths that are doing cost management. Yeah. So there are companies who are solving these issues, but I think I'm also really excited about not talking about Kubernetes. Like also what Kelsey mentioned in the morning keynote. It's just there like Linux and yeah, WASM as well. But the WASM ecosystem is not as big as cloud, like the Kubernetes ecosystem, I would say.
Yet.
Yet. So I'm excited about that to see how that evolves. Yeah. And Fermion is doing some nice things.
Yeah, I think that for me, edge computing is something that is there, but nobody's using it right now, right? So I think that maybe we need another kind of communication way to processing the thing in order that edge computing can be used more. I think that can impact more the way we are doing the things right now. But we have to wait maybe for another years maybe. It's something like, for example, the Marvel movies, X-Men and that kind of things. They, let's say 10 years ago, we don't have like the technology or 3D images to create like cool stuff like the Fantastic Four or something like that. I think that is the same that is happening with edge computing right now. So we don't have the enough things to process the things near to the edge and that kind of stuff. So I think for me, I am waiting for more tools about how to connect the things locally to process information. So I think that that part is going to be like pretty powerful in the future. Maybe for medicines, something that could be operating somebody in another country and different kind of things simultaneously, or I don't know. So I think that that part can impact a lot.
Yeah, I also think like the WebAssembly part is very interesting. It will take some time until you really can heavily utilize it, and it also will take time until people understand it's not there to just completely entirely replace containers, because it just don't make sense. But if you can access it and can have it, you can at least utilize it to some point. And what I like about the GitOps actually is more about the whole CI/CD thing, because we spent, as a little retrospective back to the last 10 years, right? We spent like a decade of automate all our procedures and processes, which we have somewhere built in scripts, into a tool that makes it a little bit more easier. And we call it continuous integration, continuous deployment, and so on. And actually with GitOps, or with the next step, registry ops, OCIs, we actually break this whole thing again in part and build artificial breakpoints and delivery endpoints for artifacts. And say like, okay, I don't care how you're really building it. We maybe check that, it's good. And you have to deliver to somewhere. And you can deliver your container there, you can deliver your WebAssembly there, you can just deliver whatever, your Helm chart, and so on and so forth. And then the next part of the pipeline, the CD, the GitOps, is taking those artifacts and throw it where it actually fits. So I think this is like popping up more and more right now, that we actually break again the full automation chain back into little chunks, but also maybe because it got too complex, too much things which wants to play into it.
Yeah, I think I mean, I've always been a big advocate of like automate, but of course, you automate everything, then the small error that somebody made somewhere with like a little typo can just like ripple out and cause absolute abject chaos everywhere. And yeah, it's interesting seeing the change of mentality you need when you go and start doing things like GitOps. It's like, oh, you're going to commit something to a repo, that means it's going to go all the way to production unless something. And getting a handle on what that really means in terms of the more pragmatic nature you have to have when you're developing things and writing your tests is hard. It's not easy. But equally, we're finding more and more areas where we have got process that we're encoding now. I know configures code like 10, 15 years ago used to mean like having some Puppet or Chef manifests that go and install Apache on your server. And now like we're automating everything. Even the things that don't actually directly relate to running processes on a server. So yeah, I'm all for it, absolutely all for it. But yeah, having that adjustment in your head of like, you're basically constantly trying to stop a juggernaut. And I think that's a good thing. But yeah, it is a polar shift in how we think about things.
Even if things don't go like according to plan, with GitOps, it's like the whole approach is a single source of truth.
Right, exactly, yeah. Which from a DR perspective, or like you need a new environment, you've got, everything's in a repo, so just run the script again. Everything's on fire, it's fine, just go and redeploy over there. That's absolutely the thinking we should be doing.
Yeah, I think that other thing to add there, a step behind, is like Kubernetes. Well, I think I can mention Terraform and Kubernetes goes for a different way to do the things, right? With files, to be declarative. And now imperative using commands. That change of mindset in the tech world changed everything. And then GitOps comes to the game, and everything around that, but declarative, the way to create the things in a declarative way was a game changer for, I think that maybe 10 years ago, starting that.
Yeah, sounds fair.
Yes, Puppet and that kind of software changed all these things about how to create infrastructure, how to maintain infrastructure, how to order the infrastructure and do the task around that.
Looking into the future. I mean, it's always a little bit hard to look into the glass ball and estimate what comes next. There's this famous statement that we never need whatever kilobyte amount of storage or memory at some point in time. Also, I learned it's actually not true that it was ever said, but it's still funny. Which role do you see Kubernetes in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Or will Kubernetes be completely challenged by something that currently is hidden somewhere in the depths of GitHub repositories and just waiting for being woken up by 10,000 developers? Hannah.
That's a hard question because you don't know what people are cooking up. In the real world, like a lot of applications still run on VMs. Hell, there are mainframes out there running software. I think if we can make the path to modernization of those applications easier, then that would be exciting. And I think if someone can do that, the place where they land is going to be incredibly successful. But if you look at it from the other perspective, about where new applications are being written and where new applications are landing, it is either a container on Kubernetes or it is serverless. And that's really what's happening in the world. And so I think there are those two forces at work right now. It's like, how do we make the path to modernization easier, especially for very big companies that have got a lot of legacy to manage? And where do new applications land that is fast and frictionless and cost effective? And if those two were to converge, I can imagine them converging around Kubernetes.
I've seen this kind of happen where I work. So yeah, a lot of people they love Kubernetes, they love deploying their containers, but there's equally a big load of people who have been running at my company, just running everything on Lambdas for a number of years, and are very, very happy with it, and they pay like $2 a year or something for it. And my infrastructure team has gone to them and said, hey, we've got this fantastic Kubernetes platform now. Why don't you move your stuff there? And then like, well, it will cost me more. There's infinite more complexity. I just like being able to deploy my stuff into AWS as a Lambda, step functions, etc. And there's so much functionality there. And I think it's going to be interesting seeing if Kubernetes and the ecosystem around it adapts to that sort of, is that a challenge to Kubernetes? Is it something that sits aside it? Let's defer and suggest that it's something that sits aside, in which case, what does the interoperability look like there? Yep. Is it things like Knative? Is that the future of where Kubernetes goes with serverless stuff? Don't know, but that's the challenge that's front and center for me at the moment.
I think historically based actually develops at the same time, right? You had the Kubernetes container ecosystem, at the same time the cloud providers are like, hey, you're serverless. Screw servers.
Yeah, and frankly, I don't want that. As with a like product owner hat on, it's like, well, what are we doing here? Are we doing that or are we doing that? If we're doing both, then there's a whole load of complexity in the middle. So,
I think what still is missing, like, maybe it's a business idea for someone, to build a platform which like really focus on here, throw the application into, and I somehow will find out either if I really need to run on serverless because it's small and fast enough and can be shut down, up, running, whatever, scale to 5 million, go back and so on, or if it's something more stable because it's just a migration and it needs a little bit more love and care and it's a little bit more sensitive if something dies or not. We also talked about, or not we, but Cassie was talking about this in the morning about Mesosphere died. Like, it was a good starting point actually. Or also Nomad is actually a pretty cool starting point for just running some simple applications if you want to, without all the other yada around it. But somehow it's missing always a little bit the little sparkling and the little bit like, come. Why
well, yeah, that's a psychological thing, isn't it? It's called the IKEA effect, isn't it? Where you place a much higher value on things that you have built or customized or like input into yourself. Like being given a product like fully made is less engaging than if you have to put a bit of effort in. And that's a human flaw. We all have that bias.
Yeah, I think for me, like Kubernetes is going to change in the future. How? I don't know. Maybe it's possible that it's going to die. But the containers is something that is working right now. It happens with Docker. They have like economic problems and other things. They forked and created container D, but containers are still there. But what is going to happen with these containers, how to orchestrate them, maybe can change. Maybe Kubernetes could be, or maybe somebody is going to fork Kubernetes and create another lighter way. Because some people say, no, Kubernetes is so expensive, it's so complicated, and somebody maybe can fork this, make it more easier, more lighter weight, more abstract, and like kind of one-click installation or something like that. But containers are going to survive. That thing is, I think that for sure is going to survive. Kubernetes, I don't know. Yep. Because we saw that the same history that performed the same thing with Mesosphere. So let's see. And I remember that when Mesosphere and Kubernetes was started, the people said, no, Kubernetes doesn't work, don't scale a lot of nodes like Mesosphere, and Mesosphere died. So what is going to happen with Kubernetes? Maybe change. And what if the next year the quantum computer is going to appear and the quantum computer doesn't support Kubernetes? Yeah, so let's see what happens with Kubernetes in the next years.
Maybe also Kubernetes will change the approach how does container like OpenShift. In the early days of OpenShift, it didn't run with Kubernetes under it, right? It was its own engine with its own way of doing things. And they were like, why I should develop now my own thing? There is a big community, let's integrate it. Maybe we'll see this in future to have Kubernetes, still the Kubernetes thing. This is a whole ecosystem because it's valuable. The value which stacks in the whole ecosystem is huge. To screw the whole thing is like, it literally doesn't make sense. But maybe the functionality under it is something which we can replace in some way for something better.
And people really get ingrained in the ecosystem. Like, there are companies who are not going to move to Kubernetes. Like a good example is like VMware. You're now paying a lot more money. It's like a sinking ship. That's a tongue twister. It's but you're still holding on to it. Like, why wouldn't you not move to Kubernetes? That's a question for like maybe you or the audience. I have no idea. But the other thing is, yeah, regarding the future, yeah, more abstraction. I really don't want to say AI. Sorry, I did, but maybe, yeah,
See you
scheduling or.
We can't
The
just
thing with
say,
Kubernetes
we can't
is
just
like-
say AI and
the
it be
thing
the
with-
answer to everything. You know?
And no, also
Everyone's woken
regarding
up now.
like cost, for example, I don't think it's just a Kubernetes issue, it's how you implement it. Same thing with security. So it's how you work with the complexity really that can drive your prices up or down. But since we're talking about the future, yeah, I think so. AI is coming, yeah.
Yeah, just picking up on the comment about OpenShift, and similarly about VMware, it's like, why did Red Hat decide to put Kubernetes into OpenShift when they'd already written an orchestration layer there? It's because that's not where their value add is. And similarly with companies like VMware and many others, it's being able to have that dependable thing that somebody's already done. But actually, I think the open source thing comes in here again. Sorry for banging that drum. The fact that it is not controlled by like a single corporation, and it serves a very, very discrete problem that people have, means that people are prepared to put it in there. It's like, well, that's just there. Well, that's fine. We'll do our exciting work up here at a different layer. And similarly, you were riffing on like Linux, again, the same sort of principle. Linux is just ever present there underneath Kubernetes, right? You don't ever see that. Same thing I think is going to happen there. I think it's here for the foreseeable future.
But is that going to happen in like 2 to 5 years? That's the question.
Depends how well you treat your maintainers, doesn't it? Like that's the thing. It's becoming increasingly difficult, I think, even in large organizations, to fund roles and headcount and like to talk about it in like those businessy terms, but people who work on projects that are outside of your business domain to be a contributor as a full-time role. And if you can't get a role as a full-time contributor, are you going to continue to be a maintainer and take on that responsibility and to hold up the community? And I think that's a challenge that a lot of open source faces. How do we actually fund maintainers appropriately?
Well, I think we will also see now, again, a small push to the community. I think I would put VMware and Broadcom a little bit more positive. I think they love Kubernetes and cloud, because they changed the license cost, and so everyone goes there, right? And maybe that brings also a lot of companies back to like, hey, maybe I should invest some money into supporting that. As we heard in the morning, enterprises don't have a problem to spend hundreds of millions in contracts for huge platforms, but they are afraid of paying 10 people to develop on some open source, which is weird because the 10 people are way more cheaper than the hundreds of millions you put on cloud providers and whatsoever.
Yeah, that's just quickly around. Like I do agree to some point, but like at KubeCon, I've met like so many VMware employees, and now I think I think there was recently a layoff of a CNCF project that was being maintained by VMware employees, and also they're I think struggling to do the contributor summit because most of the people were. So if you speak to them, they have like Broadcom completely changed the way they manage and measure success. It's like if you're not bringing this, and then you just can't do it. And I think a lot of open source people were affected by that.
Yeah, I mean, you can equally, we talk about VMware bashing Broadcom, which I'm fully in favor of, but you could equally apply that to any company who is putting a lot of money into open source because it suits their needs at the time. I mean, you could even apply that to Google, where of course where the whole thing came from. It's a huge risk. It's like if the big, I think anecdotally, somebody said that the biggest contributors to the Linux kernel at the moment are employees of Microsoft. And you've got the same sort of issue there of the thing's going to live or die based on who you can get to support it. So yeah, like, let's say hypothetically all the big vendors take all their open source people off of these projects. Can the thing survive? I don't know, probably, but yeah. And also companies are going to see that as a risk.
Yeah, we don't want it surviving on goodwill in people's spare time, like burning out our maintainers. Yeah, I don't know what the right answer is, but I definitely think that, you know, the folks who profit a lot from the open source projects that they use need some easy way to contribute back in whatever way they can.
Who of you is an open source contributor and maintainer?
Woo.
Yay. Question to the others. Why you aren't? Too complex? Too difficult to start? Yeah. True.
I think there's a barrier to entry there as well for open source. There's kind of a perception that a lot of open source is done by massive I'm in trouble with tongue twisters now, propeller heads. And it's like, oh, I'm not good enough to do open source stuff. It's a tricky one. And one of my colleagues does a lot of work with open source, and he's always lamenting the fact that the percentage of people contributing to it is reducing. And it's hard, and we must encourage more people to get involved in it. When I graduated, which was probably 2 decades before you did, so I feel really, really old. The internet, Linux, it was emerging, and the only stuff out there was open source. It was great, it was fantastic. But the world is different now. People are motivated differently. The companies that people work for are motivated differently. And looking at environments where people maybe want to contribute to open source, it's like, do you do it in your spare time? Do you have no life when you're not working? Do you do it based off of help from your employer? Maybe there's a you scratch my back, I scratch yours thing where improving an open source product helps the company in an indirect or direct way, and you get into it that way. But all of these things make it quite difficult to actually get started, unfortunately.
I think feeling overwhelmed is fine, but any open source project, I do think Kubernetes does it fairly well. It's not a hot take, but like Facebook open source projects are very hard to contribute to. Like React or Jest, it's very hard. Compared to that, like Kubernetes is relatively welcoming. I mean, if you go to a SIG, if you attend a meeting, they're not going to be like, okay, we don't have anything for you. I mean, if you show interest, but I think it's also from the contributor end. So a lot of people said it's complex, it's this or that, and I think there's a little bit of imposter syndrome. But I think you have to have that empathy from both the sides, from the maintainer, like project community, and as a user or a contributor, that it takes time. You should start small, you should ask the right questions. But if the community themselves is pushing the contributors away, not having good documentation is a good example. If you don't have good docs, probably you won't get good contributors. Yep. But I think Kubernetes in itself, it's compared to other projects, it's good. I mean, yeah, they're welcoming, but yeah, it's Kubernetes. So if you want to contribute to Kubernetes, it's obviously going to be complex, yeah.
Well, I think overall, if you take a look to all the projects in the CNCF that are in the incubated or sandbox environments, they have to implement some kind of contributor governance, right? So they need to deliver a structure where you can start. It's maybe something for you if you think about it. Hey, where I should start? Go to the projects which are, for example, hosted under the CNCF that are graduated or the incubated or in the sandbox environments. Because they have a contributor strategy and they have people who are there just to help you. So if it's too complex to start somewhere, go for them. You can always reach out in the Slack, ask people, and you more or less fast will find your first good steps into this direction. And documentation is always fantastic. I started my Kubernetes contribution with translating the Kubernetes documents from English to German. If you find some writing mistakes, I'm sorry, I have legasthenia. So there's maybe here and there something which is a little bit wrongly translated. But it incredible helps also to understand the technology by itself. So it's not only helping the community, but also helping yourself to understand something better. Because there's nothing more complicated to translate something from English to your native language. That's a completely different game.
Just one quick thing is learn from others. So someone who is a maintainer now was a beginner once. So you can, because it's on GitHub, you can see the whole history. And then when you become a maintainer or a contributor, think about where you started from and then help onboard like new people.
All right. Does any one of you have a hidden gem, something which is really like not that much talked about technology-wise right now, where we would say like, I'm looking at this project, that might be something, but yet it's like freshly born, still in the baby shoes, crawling around, and no one knows where it ends up.
Something working for ourselves or a project or personal.
Anything what you have seen, heard?
Well, for me, because I am pretty involved on edge computing, I am trying to help archaeologists in Guatemala to use technology on the edge, right? Because they are remote locations that you don't have internet access and that kind of things. So that I want to create a kind of edge device where they can process information to detect rings, glyphos, and that kind of stuff. So I am working on that. Maybe it's possible that I am going to create an open source project that maybe a lot of people around the world can contribute on how to detect information for that kind of specific use case. So yeah, I am working on that right now.
Cool, interesting. Nice.
Nothing quite so worthy as what you're doing, Sergio, but and I'll go a bit more deep on tech. I'm quite excited about, and again, this is probably predictable given I spent quite a lot of time talking about GitOps, just seeing how things like Flux are evolving and mostly in how they are getting simpler and how we're getting these abstractions right. Similar with things like we've got a particular problem in my company around node management and seeing some of the advances that we've got in tools like Carpenter for managing nodes and scalability, vertical scaling there. That sort of stuff looks cool. But the TLDR is I'm looking forward to not having to be involved at that level and seeing this whole thing disappear for the right reason into the background.
Something new and cool that not many people know about, they should check out. Yeah, Civo Recite. I'm kidding. But do check it out. I could say like more like if you talk about future of Kubernetes, I could go the abstraction route or other things. But if I have to pick one thing, I'm really my main focus is sustainability and environment because of the story I mentioned before. Because if you can't have basic necessities, then there's no point. If I have to pick one thing that you have not already looked into, I would say check out Deep Green. We have one of the Deep Green regions, so they take the heat generated from servers, heat the swimming pool. It's very cool. Check the diagram. They have like oil in the data center, which gets heated up. They transport it. It's very cool stuff. And they're, I think, going to do more regions outside Europe, maybe. But that's one thing apart from the discussion we had, if you want to check out. Yeah. And Civo Recite.
Oh no, we crept along the edge and I wasn't prepared for this question. I think I've sort of thought of something good there you might all want to check out. And I can't remember whether it's open source or whether it's free. There's a free tier, but it's a tool called MindGuard. And basically what it does security testing of your AI application, specifically LLMs. And so it uses an AI engine to actually test the vulnerabilities within your LLMs. And we know that there's like a huge blossoming community around that. Like if you go on Hugging Face, there's so many models that you can pick up off the shelf. And it's exactly the same as open source, isn't it? It's like you can pick up a package and you don't know whether it's vulnerable or not unless you check. And so that's what people are doing. They're picking up their llamas and their minstrels or whatever, and they're using them because they're incredibly powerful tools and they're free. They're just there. People are giving them away, and it's amazing, but they're not necessarily secure. And so yes, I don't remember whether it's open source or there's a free version. But if you aren't security testing your LLMs, then there are options available, and that was something that I learned recently that I'm very excited about.
All right, cool. To close the things up, I would like to ask you an interview question, which I normally like to ask people when we have applications from them, which is like, imagine you have for one day all the 10,000 Kubernetes developers. What they should develop this one day long?
Okay, for me, one-click installation for Kubernetes.
No kubeadm anymore?
No.
Then the
Just
CKA certificate going to be boring.
Yeah.
I think they should go and sit with the development and product owners and work out, watch what they're doing, observe how software gets imagined, designed and built, and then go back and figure out what they should be doing. to make that better.
So bring the future closer. I think the future is not just about how many years pass by. I think it's when a significant change happens. So when we were talking about Kubernetes as the Linux of the cloud, it's just there, we don't think about it. I think, yeah, more abstraction.
Well, Matt stole my answer. But but actually, I was also going to say, like, actually, it's a worthy use of your time, and it's probably one of the most scalable and impactful uses of your time to improve documentation. Because you could write a blog post, you could record a webinar, you could make a contribution, but actually, these docs live on and they impact thousands of people. And so I think that's probably one of the most impactful ways you can spend your time.
I think I would really spend the time on making Kubernetes entirely native to the operating system. Something like Talos, for example, right? Baked into the operating system so we can throw away all the hypervisor in between. Sorry, but I think we don't need any more so much of this layer. With that, is there any question from the audience to our penalties? Yeah, I heard we have a little bit more time. Oh, okay. Right? No one is going to stop us here. The name of the
tool is MindGuard.
Any further questions? Thoughts, ideas? What you would expect to see?
Who is going to go home and contribute? Raise of hands.
At least 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Also there, if you need anything or any other hint, feel free to come by. So we can maybe give you more direction to that. Depending on what you like, what you're interested into. I believe all of us have quite broad understanding of the landscape, so don't be shy and come by. Alrighty, then with that, again, thank you very much for joining. Thanks for your insights.
Thank you.
And I wish you a nice afternoon and hope you enjoyed the last 2 days.